suffer from feeling like you just can't explain yourself? Like you are just so far out there or so different from other people? Do you suffer from feeling like you just can't explain yourself? Like you are just so far out there or so different from other people that even if you tried to explain yourself, you still would feel misunderstood? You are not alone. You might have even what's called schizotypal personality disorder. So, like I often talk about in my other videos, everything is on a continuum, right? So you might not have the disorder, which means that this pervasive way of living has become destructive for you or has impaired either your social, cognitive, or career functioning. If it hasn't impaired you in that way and is still distressing, then it can be pathological. Um, so let's just dive in and we'll talk about some of these personality traits, and maybe you relate to some and you don't necessarily meet the disorder, but you can relate to these type of people. So schizotypal personality disorder in the DSM is uh, starts with a list of different items that you would need 5 of the 9 to be considered having this personality disorder. So the first one is ideas of reference, excluding delusions of reference. So you might have a lot of different flight of ideas or ideas that might appear delusional to some people, but they're plausible. The second is having odd beliefs meaning not culturally accepted readily, or magical thinking that influences your behavior. So you might be in fantasy land and act out a character or act like you're not necessarily in the reality of other people because your reality differs so much from the cultural collective experience of reality. Um, and it is inconsistent with even subcultural norms. So some superstitious beliefs that you might have or hold that are not superstitions that even superstitious people believe. Okay, so they're just far out. Um, Belief in clairvoyance, telepathy, for example, having a sixth sense. In children or adolescents, they have other bizarre fantasies or preoccupations that just typically are not um, the regular child's play or fantasy world that they create. Um, the next thing is having unusual percep- perceptual experiences, including bodily illusion. So you might have the illusion that, a body part is um, not working correctly, or that maybe you don't have a body part, or maybe you feel that there's some kind of special skill or magical power that you have that maybe your body is possessed, or maybe part of your body can use as magic to heal or help, or whatever other magical belief that you might have regarding that body part, or several body parts, or your whole body, including your mind. And the fourth is having odd thinking and speech. So maybe your speech is very vague, or you come off to people as just, you're not really getting your point across, because either way, they're not going to understand all that's going on in your brain. So to organize it in a way that they'll understand, it comes out very vague to them. Or metaphorical. So you might speak in stereotyped ways, or it might change based on the circumstances. So it's not well understood by the people that are regularly in your life, or it seems to change from circumstance to circumstance, or it's over elaborated, very exaggerated. So a lot of people will say that maybe you dramatize things, but and I hesitate to use the word dramatize because that's more emotionally based, but this is more flowery. So basically your descriptions are like someone who would be a really great writer. Those are you write the kind of stories and tell the kind of stories that create visions for other people that are probably fantasies for their reality, but would be a really great read or movie. The fifth one is being suspicious or having paranoid ideation. So just being suspicious of other people. So if you're feeling misunderstood by somebody, you're probably going to be suspicious of what they think about you or believe about you, because no matter what, you're going to feel misunderstood because you just cannot convey everything that's going on with you in a way that they can understand you. And that's okay. So that's just part of this personality disorder, or personality type. So if you're paranoid about it, that just means it's taking up a part of your brain and you're preoccupied with how people might think or what people perceive you as, and that could run a space in your head and take up some of the thoughts and cognitions that you have throughout the day, more than what is necessary. So the sixth thing is the inappropriate or constricted affect. So having your affect is your facial expression. That's how they say it in psychological terms. And being inappropriate or constricted just means that it's incongruent, or if you're saying something and like if I'm talking about something really sad and I'm smiling like this and it's very sad and depressing, like a trauma or something that happened to me in the past, but I'm explaining it and I'm smiling, then it's not going to seem congruent. Or I might just have a very monotone way of saying and talking about things, even though I'm talking about war and how I shot people and saw gruesome bodies and bones and blood gushing out, and or whatever trauma that you might be thinking about, and just not really having any emotion attached to that scenario. Okay, that's just one example. So having a constricted affect just means also that maybe it's not necessarily monotone completely or flat affect, they would call it, but it's blunted. So very little attachment of emotion that reflects your affect or facial expression. All right, so the seventh one is behavior or appearance that is odd, eccentric, or peculiar. So we all know those people that we see in the movies or reality TV shows. They're just eccentric, right? That's why they have their own television show, because they're just so different from other people that people are in awe, wowed, curious, excited by that, aroused, just, interested, because it's so intriguing and sparks your curiosity that what is this person about? What makes them tick like that? Like, this is so odd or so different, from how other people live. That's why it makes great TV. Okay, and then the eighth one is lack of close friends or confidants other than first degree relatives. So because the behavior is so odd to the cultural norms, and there's not a lot of relatability to other people, there's not a lot of connection. So schizotypal personalities don't make connections and make those relationships, and if they do, they're not lasting, or they're not really nourished because there's so much disconnect, and you need connection and relatability in order to form relationships. So that the only confidants that they have really are first degree relatives, the people that might be like them because they created them or they shaped them, and they have some kind of other dependency on one another that keeps that relationship going. So the ninth and final thing is the excessive social anxiety that does not diminish with familiarity, being around that person or people or group of people, and tends to be associated with paranoid fears rather than negative judgments about self. So they don't necessarily, schizotypal people don't necessarily judge themselves or feel bad about themselves for being that certain way, right? You see those reality shows, those people seem very confident and they're happy with who they are. They don't understand other people or why other people don't understand them. So there's that cognitive dissonance there. And there's also the effect that the anxiety around being other people is very high because, again, they feel misunderstood or confused or unsure. And so, of course, if you feel unsure or confused, your anxiety level is going to go up. So that is why they dive into other relationships that seem familiar, which are often those first degree relatives. Okay, so the last and not least, so out of the 9, you'd have to have 5 of those 9 in order to be considered schizotypal personality. And it also, to note, does not occur exclusively during the course of schizophrenia. So this is not schizophrenia, it's a personality disorder. So lots of people get schizotypal personality disorder confused with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia has to do with having some psychotic features, whereas schizotypal personality disorder does not have those issues. So that is it for this video. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, you can relate to feeling misunderstood. Know that there are people that feel even more misunderstood than you, and if you're that one person that feels totally misunderstood to the point that you're so eccentric and your only friends are your first degree relatives, and anyone else in your life just doesn't get you, then know that you're, again, not the only person on this earth that feels like that, and there's other people out there just like you. Hope this helps, and don't forget to subscribe and watch more of my videos on mental health.